Let's go ahead and bring in Congressman Jason Smith, Republican of Missouri and chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. Sir, you heard my colleague Nate report there. The Biden administration has been late to the game in terms of enacting border policies. Putting that aside for a moment, your colleagues, sir, have been in power in the House now for almost 4 months. If this was such a priority, why are we scrambling now 2 weeks before, or why are you scrambling now 2 weeks ahead of Title 42's expiration?
Well, the reason why we have a border crisis is because of the actions that President Biden did in his first 100 days in office. He did 94 different executive orders that weakened our border that has now led to more than 5 million people that's crossed it. He also, whenever I took a trip of House Republicans down to the border, we exposed how he was illegally withholding more than $1 billion of bipartisan funding to secure the southern border. That is why we have the border crisis we have. He rescinded the Remain in Mexico policy, and now he's going after, of course, Title 42. So it's
sir,
absolutely
respectfully,
disaster.
I know that, the GOP blames the Biden administration, but my question is, why are you guys only proposing legislation now, 4 months into this, 2 weeks before Title 42 expires, if it's such a priority?
We've had this legislation proposed. We're not just proposing it. It's coming to the floor in just 2 weeks. We've only been in power for just over 100 days. And we had to set up chairmen. We had to set up committees. Because in case you didn't realize, we fired Nancy Pelosi and took over. And we raised the debt limit just this week, which was the first thing that had to happen. President Biden said House Republicans couldn't do it. We did it. Unfortunately, not even one Democrat helped us. So we are doing the business that we're supposed to. It's not about a time frame. It's about addressing the needs of all Americans all the time. That's what House Republicans are doing. That's not what Democrats have been doing. They're the ones creating the crisis at the border. They did that by their executive orders. They did that by encouraging terrorists to cross the southern border. We've had more than 200 known terrorists that have been apprehended at the southern border since Joe Biden's been president. That's unacceptable.
Sir, I want to turn your attention while we have you to the president's proposal on the debt limit. The White House is sticking with that proposal right now, refusing to negotiate. The country is risking default, as early as June. Folks on both sides of the aisle seem to be growing real antsy. Senator Joe Manchin doubled down on his push for the Biden administration to come to the table this week, saying, quote, "The clock is ticking and the American people will pay the economic price if President Biden continues to refuse to sit down and negotiate a common sense compromise that would prevent a historic default." Congressman Ro Khanna claims Speaker McCarthy's bill has things all backwards. Take a listen.
Let's first discuss what to cut. After we pay the bill, after we pay our debt, then we can discuss how we reduce the deficit. They're holding it hostage. It's like a family saying, we'll only pay our credit card bill if you agree, family member X, to cut this spending. Let's first pay the bill. We've already, incurred these expenses. This is patriotic to pay our bills.
Mr. Chairman, what do you say to that?
That's absolutely absurd. If you look at the history, anytime you've increased the debt limit, in fact, 11 times that we've increased the debt limit since 1985, it's been tied to fiscal reforms. And what we did was provide a bill that cut $4.8 trillion by also increasing the debt limit by $1.5 trillion. President Biden said House Republicans couldn't do it. We did it. What President Biden is asking for, even his Democrat-controlled Senate can't even pass it. If they could, they would have already passed it. But Senator Joe Manchin says that Joe Biden needs to come to the table and negotiate with House Republicans. House Republicans have delivered on an increase of a debt limit. It's reckless for Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer not to talk to Speaker McCarthy and myself and negotiate for the American people to bring fiscal sanity back to Washington, D.C.
House Republican fundraisers at the same time are set to put out this ad blasting Democrats. Take a listen. I want to get your reaction.
What do House Democrats do as the United States barrels towards its first ever default on our debt? Nothing. They refuse to call for compromise or tell Biden to seek common ground to prevent catastrophe. Politics over people. It's disgusting. It's extreme. And it's the American people who will suffer.
Talk to us a bit about the real financial costs in dollars to American taxpayers under the proposed plan?
We can absolutely not default. And it is true. It's absurd and it's reckless that House Democrats, not even one, would join with us in increasing the debt limit this week. But it is great that we have Senator Manchin on the other side of the building saying that we need to come to the table to negotiate an agreement. The American people, 60% of the American people are opposed to a blank check debt limit increase that President Biden and Chuck Schumer and House Democrats are proposing. So we have to come to the table, deliver for the American people, and raise the debt limit and not default.
All right. Well, sir, we wish you and your colleagues both sides of the aisle good luck with this going forward. It is important work. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.